Bonjour all and welcome in. I see you're either curious about or have chosen to install Ubuntu on your system. It's a great Linux despite what the haters say. It's still top tier, extremely popular, and extremely well supported by developers. You can't go wrong with Ubuntu. Before we get started, I'm going to preface this as I always do. You should watch my video on the pre-install steps if you're planning to dual boot so you can prepare Windows and your system to receive Linux without any issues. And you should also watch my Ventoy video so you can learn how to make a super awesome phantasmalistic bootable USB thumb drive containing your Linux ISOs that you're going to download in the next step. Speaking of which, let's go learn how to download Ubuntu, because we're going to need to do that before we can install it. To download Ubuntu, simply open up your favorite browser. I'm using Zen today. Go to Ubuntu.com, accept their cookies. Who doesn't like delicious, delicious cookies? Then you have your choice. You can scroll down and download any version of Ubuntu you'd like. The version we're going with today is the Ubuntu Desktop, their standard edition, which features GNOME 49. But if you're not interested in GNOME, you might want to go to Flavors. And what Flavors do is offer you a different desktop environment or some different feature sets. For example, Kubuntu uses KDE Plasma instead of GNOME, etc., etc. You can pick whichever one you like best or that suits your needs. Heck, Cinnamon over here would make it look just like Linux Mint if Linux Mint hadn't de-Ubuntufied themselves mostly. Interesting, right? Anyway, let's go download Ubuntu Desktop. On the right-hand side of the page, there's a Download Ubuntu Desktop button in green. Click on that. When you get to this page, you'll be able to choose which version you want. There's currently two available on this page itself, Ubuntu 24.04 long-term support, and the most recent, which just came out, Ubuntu 25.10. This isn't a long-term support version, but it is the most up-to-date with the most recent features and apps and other software and refinements. This is the one we're going to be downloading today. On the right-hand side of the page, click the download link for the version you need. If you're using an Intel or AMD 64-bit CPU like the Ryzen or the Core series, you'd click on this green download link. If you're using ARM, you'd click on this white download link. So we're going to go ahead and click on the green one. And it's going to automatically start the download. Once that download is complete, chuck the ISO onto a USB drive or a disk of some kind. I recommend using Ventoy, as I stated in the beginning of this video, but however you'd like to get it onto a bootable disk is up to you. Once that's done, boot from the disk you created and launch into Ubuntu. And I'll see you back on the desktop. Welcome back. Once you've downloaded and booted successfully into Ubuntu from the install media, you're greeted with the Welcome to Ubuntu window. From here, it's just a few short steps to get the installation underway, so let's get started by selecting our language. Mine's English, so I'm just going to hit next on the bottom right here. Now, Ubuntu does something really cool that I think a lot of other distros should probably learn from. It brings the accessibility options right to the forefront, right from the start, so you don't have to struggle through an install or find somebody to help you if you have any seeing difficulties or hearing difficulties or what have you. I think it's a great thing to have right from the start. I'm not going to use any right now, but if you need them, they are absolutely right here at your fingertips to select away, and once you're ready, hit next. Now you select your keyboard layout. Mine is the US English, so I don't really need to change anything, but you're welcome to do that if you need to, and you can type in this box to make sure all your keys work. Once you're ready, hit next. If you want to connect to the internet, you can choose what kind of method you want to connect to the internet with. like wired or wireless, or you can choose not to connect to the internet at all. Who knows? Maybe you don't want that. I'm going to use a wired connection and hit next. Now you get to make a choice. If you're ready to install Ubuntu, select the first option called Install Ubuntu, or you can futz about in the live media, try it out, see if it's a good fit for you by using the Try Ubuntu option. I'm going to go directly to the install since that's what we're here for, but if you want to play around in it a bit before you decide to install, you always have that option. So click on Install Ubuntu if you're ready to take the plunge, and then click Next. You have the option to do an interactive installation, which is what we're going to do, and that's where we go through the wizard and then it does the installation with us attending the PC. Or you can do an automated install if you have an auto install file available to you. Most people on their first installation of this won't have that, so we're going to do interactive installation today. So select that and click Next. What apps would you like to install to start with? If you want to start with the bare minimum, which is basically just a few essentials, basic utilities, web browser, etc., you can select the default selection just fine. You can pick and choose what you want to install later without putting too much bloat on your system right at the start, or you can install pretty much everything in the kitchen sink by selecting the extended selection, which is an offline-friendly selection of office tools, utilities, and web browser. I'm actually going to install the extended selection because why not? It's there and I like stuff, but you do you. And I'm going to click Next in the bottom right. Next, it's going to ask you if you want to install any proprietary software that it recommends, such as third-party drivers for graphics or Wi-Fi, or codecs for being able to watch additional types of audio and video files, etc., etc. I wholeheartedly recommend selecting both of these and then clicking Next, but you don't have to. You're not obligated to. You do you. Once again, there's no wrong way to Linux. And when you're ready, click Next. Now we get to decide how and where we want to install Ubuntu. The first option allows us to install alongside Windows on the same disk, and a boot manager will be installed so that we can select which operating system we want to boot from at boot up, which is great. If you want to select a completely different disk and erase it and have just Linux on there and not Windows, select Erase Disk and install Ubuntu. It'll delete everything. It's going to format the drive and do all the partitions for you. If you have multiple drives in your system and one has, say, Windows on it or another operating system, it will still install a boot manager, so you will still be able to dual boot with this method. This is for folks who have multiple drives and want each operating system on separate drives rather than alongside each other on the same disk. Or you could do manual installation, which allows you to do your own partitioning scheme, format your drives however you'd like, etc., etc. You can get real fancy with that. For my purposes right now, I'm going to select Install alongside Windows Boot Manager, since I'm installing them on the same disk as each other, and I'm going to click Next in the bottom right. And now you get to choose where to install Ubuntu, so you can select the partition to install it on. My Windows is located on SDA2 as shown in this drop-down box right here. If you want to select a different partition, click this drop-down box here and select it from the list. I'm going to use the one that it has selected for me. And now you use this handy-dandy slider to decide how much space you want Ubuntu to have. I am going to install it with about half-ish the drive, and then when I'm satisfied with this, click Next. If you want to encrypt the file system for some extra security and protection, you can totally do that. In fact, I would highly recommend doing that, especially on laptops and such. Things that are easily stolen or drives that are easily lost. It's a good feature to have, although it will require a passphrase, so you're going to have to remember that. For right now, though, I'm going to select no encryption just for our purposes, and you totally don't have to encrypt either. Once again, totally up to you. Once you're satisfied, click next. Now you create your account. So put in your name, put in your computer's name, put in your username, which is fine by default for me, but you can set it to whatever you want. Then you put in your nice easy password. And then you put in your nice easy password again. You're going to want to require this password to log in for security reasons. If you uncheck this box, it'll log in automatically whenever your computer is turned on. I would not recommend that. You do you though. If you're all alone and nobody ever touches your computer, it might be more convenient for it to just auto log in, but generally I would steer away from unchecking this box. Once you're all set here, click next. Now select your time zone. If it's not correct by default, you can click in these boxes and do some typing. And some time zones should appear. See, like that. Once you're satisfied, click next. Now you just review everything you just did. Make sure it's all correct and you're not going to be breaking anything. And once you're all square with this, click install on the bottom right, the big green happy button. Now you just sit back, relax, enjoy a little bit of a slideshow, and let Ubuntu do its thing. I'll see you in a few minutes when this is done. Once Ubuntu has finished installing, it'll let you know that it's ready to use. It'll have a big shiny green button that says restart now. If you're ready, go ahead and click that now. Remove your installation media from the system and then reboot into Ubuntu. Or you can click on the continue testing button to continue playing around in the live environment. Although now that it's installed, I don't really see a point in doing that, so we're going to go ahead and click the big green button, and I'll see you in a moment in Ubuntu proper. Once you've successfully booted into Ubuntu and logged in, you're greeted once again with the welcome to Ubuntu 25.10 window where you can view release notes and do other things. In the top right corner, hit next. Do you want to help improve Ubuntu by sending in random bits of data? I know a lot of us came to Linux to avoid telemetry, so I'm going to say no, but if you want to help them out with your data, that's 100% up to you. You can get started with applications by opening the App Center. Not going to do that right now because we got a few things I want to take care of first. So hit finish on that. Once you're on the desktop, push the super key and type in update. And then run software update. We want to make sure our system is fully up to date because it does not do that during the installation proper. As you can see, there are some updates here. You can click on this little arrow here to reveal what's being updated exactly, which is quite a bunch of stuff, including the kernel. So let's install now on the bottom right. Enter your nice easy password. And let it do its thing. This shouldn't take too terribly long. And once that's finished, your computer will be up to date. Hit OK. Now, since there was a kernel update, I'm going to recommend you restart. So go into the top right corner, hit the power button, and click on restart. See you in a second. Now you get to go and install some apps. I've already installed OBS, so I could do this recording, so you can see that there. How I did that was I went to the App Center on the left-hand side, and I typed in OBS Studio. I clicked on that, and there was an install button where this green open button is. I'll show you on another app like Steam, for example. there is an install button, and to install Steam, you would just click that. Now, the Ubuntu App Store is all snap packages by default. So if you want to install system packages or Flatpaks, by default, you're out of luck, and I would not recommend running Steam from a container like a snap. I would recommend the system package version of Steam. So without further ado, now that you're all installed, up to date, and know how to install apps from the App Center, let's get you up and gaming, shall we? First things first, we're going to need Steam, the system package version preferably. So what we're going to have to do is add the multiverse repository so that we can actually access that package on Ubuntu, as well as other third-party things. To do that, we need to open a terminal, so push the super key and type in terminal, and then run this command, sudo add-apt-repository space multiverse. Press enter. Enter your nice easy password. And then when it says it's adding multiverse to all repositories, press enter to continue. And there you go. Now run sudo apt update to update the list of available packages to you, followed by sudo apt install Steam. Then hit yes to install Steam and all of its dependencies. And you're off to the races. Now it's going to display a warning that Steam is a 32-bit program and requires a 32-bit graphics driver and the libraries to operate correctly. Press OK by pressing tab and then hitting enter. Let it do its thing some more. And there you go. You should now be able to run Steam by pressing super key and typing in Steam. You can see the install Steam icon there. Click on that or press enter. It's going to pop up with the Steam installer, confirming you want to install it. Press install. And now you play the waiting game. While you're waiting here, prep your phone or whatever device you use for the nice handy-dandy QR code login for when that pops up. You're going to want that available to you. We can also close out of the terminal now. Once that's up, log into Steam. Boom. Now that you're in Steam, go to the Steam menu on the top left. Go to Settings. Go to Downloads. At the very bottom of Downloads, turn on Allow Background Processing of Vulkan Shaders so that you don't have to wait 20 years for your games to start every time you want to play a game. And then close out of here. Close out of Steam. Fully exit Steam. Now we're going to install a very special version of Proton, which is the compatibility layer that lets you play Windows games in Linux. By default, Steam comes with Valve's own version of Proton, which is most excellent, but I prefer to direct people to use Glorious Eggroll and or CashieOS's version, which contains additional fixes and configurations that further enhance your experience and compatibility with certain titles. In order to do that, we're going to need to install Flatpaks though, and by default, Flatpak is not functional on Ubuntu, so we're going to need to install that. In order to do that, you're going to need to launch into terminal again, and then type in the following commands: sudo apt install Flatpak and push enter. Type in your nice easy password. Let it do its thing, hit yes, and enter. Once that's done, install the GNOME Software Flatpak plugin by typing in sudo apt install gnome-software-plugin-flatpak. Press enter and say yes to the changes here. And once that's done, we're going to have to add the FlatHub repository by typing in flatpak remote -add space -- if -not -exists space flathub space https://dl.flathub.org/repo/flatpak-repo, and then press enter. Put in your nice easy password. And press enter. Now that that's done, all you have to do is restart your system and Flatpak will be installed and ready for use. So I'm going to do that right now. Be back in half a jiff. Now that Flatpak is installed and your computer's been restarted, you're ready to install Proton Plus. To do so, go into Firefox on the top left by default. Then, in the address bar, type in flathub.org and hit enter. From flathub.org, search for Proton Plus. Click on Proton Plus. And then click on the down arrow next to install. Copy the command that you see here. And then open a terminal and paste the command into the terminal with Ctrl-Shift-V and hit enter. And then say yes. And then yes again. Let it do its thing. Now that Proton Plus is installed, you can launch it by pressing the super key and then typing in Proton Plus, hitting enter. Once in Proton Plus, click on Proton GE. Install Proton GE Latest by clicking the download button on the right-hand side next to it. Also do the same for the actual latest version of Proton GE by clicking on the download link next to that. And now you're done in Proton Plus. You can close that now. You can also close out of the terminal. I'm going to minimize the browser, but we don't need that anymore either. Now let's launch back into Steam and get set up with Proton GE. From the top left Steam menu, click on Settings, go down to Compatibility, click on that. Now you can see Valve's own Proton Experimental, which is all fine and dandy like sour candy, but we're going to change that to Glorious Eggroll's Proton that we just installed, so click that and select Proton GE Latest, and then restart Steam. And now that Steam is fully restarted, you are good to game, my friend. Any game you launch will now launch by default with Proton GE. Hooray! Now that you've got Ubuntu installed, up to date, you're up in gaming, and you know how to install various forms of packages, there's one last thing we gotta do, and that's to make sure that if you break it, your system hasn't bought it. We're going to install and set up Timeshift. To do that, open up a terminal, type in the following command: sudo apt install Timeshift. Press enter, enter your nice easy password. Hit enter and install the dependencies and the package by saying yes. Let it do its thing. Now you can exit the terminal and run Timeshift. Enter your nice easy password. Now it's going to ask you to set it up. I believe by default, Ubuntu installs your drive as ext4. So we're going to use rsync. Click next. It's going to estimate your system size. Yes, I was right. It is ext4. So from here, click next. Select the frequency you want your system to be snapshotted. I prefer to have a few daily, a few hourly, and a few right after fresh boots. That way I know that if I break something, I have plenty of nice safe points to restore back to. Click next. These settings are fine by default. You don't want to back up your home directory or your root's home directory. That will fill up your disk so fast, it'll make your head spin. All you really want to back up is system files, things that can actually break. If you're worried about your home folder files, your documents, your pictures, I recommend setting up other forms of backups, like using DEPRECATED on Backblaze, for example. Anyway, click next. Confirm the setup is complete and hit finish. Now you're ready to go. Let's create our first snapshot manually by clicking on create and let it do its thing. It may take a moment or two. And now that it's complete, you should have this nice snapshot so that you can save your butt if you break anything from this point onward. You can always come back here by clicking on restore, selecting your snapshot, and then restarting your computer immediately. It's very handy, especially if you're new to Linux or like to tinker. And that's just about it. You now know everything you need to get started with Ubuntu, and I hope you enjoy it. Hope this video was helpful to you. If it was, let me know in the comments below. Share it with a friend if you want to. And I'll see you in the next one.